Cabello Ndala walked through the busy streets of Mavoko Bay, every morning with a gentle smile and a calm presence that seemed to brighten the day of anyone he met. At the logistics company where he worked, he was known as the person who would patiently listen to customers' problems, go the extra mile to deliver packages on time, and quietly assist coworkers whenever they struggled. His kindness was natural, not forced, and it drew people to him without any effort. People trusted him, and his reputation as a helpful and dependable young man quickly spread throughout the city. Despite his calm and humble nature, Cabello's life at work was far from easy. Mr. Bika Lutuli, the company's strict and impatient manager, often scowled at him. He believed that employees should be tough and competitive, not soft-hearted or thoughtful. Whenever Cabello showed patience or went out of his way to help someone, Mr. Lutuli would frown and mutter about weakness and inefficiency. The tension grew daily because, unknown to Cabello, his gentle behavior was beginning to overshadow his boss. Customers preferred dealing with Cabello, and his co-workers admired his approach, which made the boss feel threatened. One day, Cabello noticed an elderly vendor struggling to carry her heavy cart through the crowded market. Without thinking, he rushed to help her, guiding the cart safely to her stall while offering a few kind words of encouragement. A group of customers witnessed his actions and praised him loudly, making the act of kindness public. Instead of appreciation, Mr. Lutuli saw this moment as an insult to his authority. He called Cabello into the office, berated him in front of everyone, and accused him of showing off to steal attention from the real leadership. Cabello's cheeks burned with embarrassment, but he remained silent, his eyes lowered, refusing to argue or show anger. This public humiliation left Cabello shaken. He could not understand why helping someone, something he had always done without thought, had become a reason for punishment. His co-workers whispered sympathy, and some customers expressed disappointment at the boss's harshness. Yet, even in this difficult moment, Cabello's gentle spirit remained intact. Deep down, he realized that true kindness was sometimes seen as a threat to pride and power, but that did not mean it was wrong. He quietly resolved to continue being himself, knowing that his actions touched lives in ways that words alone could never measure. Cabello's story in those few days captured the hearts of everyone around him. People began to watch closely, curious about how a simple, kind man could face such opposition and still hold his dignity, making everyone wonder if kindness could really change the world even against harsh authority. Mr. Lutuli slammed his hand on the desk and glared at Cabello, accusing him loudly of slowing productivity, even though the numbers clearly showed the opposite. Every delivery had been on time, every customer satisfied, yet the boss refused to acknowledge facts. His words were sharp, full of anger and pride, and the office grew silent as co-workers watched in tense disbelief. Some looked down, avoiding eye contact, while others whispered among themselves, unsure if they should intervene. The tension in the room felt thick, almost suffocating, as Cabello's heart pounded, trying to make sense of the accusation. Then came the firing. It was sudden, dramatic, and completely unfair. Mr. Lutuli stood in front of the team, pointing a finger at Cabello, declaring that his behavior had undermined authority and disrupted the workflow. Words of betrayal stung deeply because Cabello had always been loyal, dedicated, and respectful. The office felt like a stage where humiliation was the only performance, and Cabello had been forced into the spotlight. His cheeks flushed, eyes stung, and hands trembled slightly as he absorbed the injustice. Co-workers stared silently, some shocked, some saddened, none daring to speak. Every sentence from the boss felt like a hammer, pounding at Cabello's sense of fairness and decency. Inside, a storm of emotions swirled: shock, shame, confusion, and an aching sense of betrayal. He had never imagined that kindness, something so natural to him, could be seen as a weakness or a reason for punishment. The disbelief gnawed at him. His mind tried to reconcile his years of effort to do good with the cold, harsh reality of authority lashing out. Questions started forming in his heart. How can someone who only tries to help be punished? Does goodness even have value in a world ruled by pride and ego? As he gathered his belongings, every step felt heavy, like carrying the weight of the world. The office, usually a place of routine, now seemed empty and hostile. He looked at the faces of co-workers, some avoiding his gaze, some filled with silent sympathy. Walking out of the building, the noise of the city outside felt distant. muted by the emptiness growing inside him. The familiar streets, once full of promise, now felt strange and cold. For the first time, Cabello questioned whether being kind truly mattered if it could lead to humiliation, loss, and rejection. Leaving the company, he felt hollow, a strange emptiness that came from betrayal and misunderstanding. Yet even in that moment of despair, the spark of who he was, the part that helped, cared, and stayed patient, remained alive, quietly waiting for a chance to shine again. Though the world had shown him that goodness could sometimes come with a painful price, Cabello searched for work tirelessly, walking from office to office in Mavoko Bay, but every employer seemed to want someone loud, aggressive, and cutthroat. They frowned at his calm demeanor and gentle way of speaking, telling him he lacked drive or fire. Rejection after rejection weighed heavily on him, and soon the reality of unpaid bills and mounting expenses pressed down like a heavy stone. Each interview ended with polite words but no hope, and the city that once felt full of opportunity now seemed closed and unwelcoming. At home, the pressure grew unbearable. Cabello's mother, Sena Maundala, had always been a strong and proud woman, but the stress of unpaid rent and medicine bills took a toll on her health. Her coughs deepened, and worry lines etched her face. Seeing her weakened and anxious cut Cabello to the core, filling him with helplessness. The woman who had raised him with love and patience now needed him, yet he struggled to provide even the basics. The community, once friendly and familiar, began to look at Cabello differently. Neighbors whispered when he passed by, some offering pitying glances, others confused about why a capable, kind young man could fail in a world that seemed to reward harshness. Friends he had grown up with avoided eye contact, unsure how to comfort or advise him. Even in crowded streets, he felt alone, like a soft light fading among the harshness of the world around him. To survive, he took odd jobs in Tandala Market, carrying crates, cleaning stalls, running errands, anything to earn a few coins. Through these small tasks, he observed the people around him closely, how respect and empathy were rare treasures, how small gestures of understanding could make someone's day brighter. He noticed vendors scolding customers, children ignored by busy parents, and strangers passing by without a glance at someone in need. These glimpses showed him both the emptiness and the hunger for kindness in everyday life. One afternoon, exhausted and discouraged, a stranger handed him a simple cup of water after he helped move a heavy cart. The gesture was small, almost ordinary, yet it lit a spark inside him that had dimmed under rejection and hardship. In that quiet moment, Cabello remembered why he had always been kind, why helping others had felt natural. He realized that even in a world that seemed harsh and unforgiving, kindness had value, and even the smallest act could restore hope, not just for others but for himself. The spark of purpose, fragile but real, began to grow once more in his heart. Cabello sat on the edge of a worn wooden bench in Tandala Market, thinking about everything he had lost and everything he still wanted to achieve. He realized that the world might value aggression and loudness, but he could offer something different, a service built on respect, honesty, and treating every person with care. An idea took shape in his mind, a delivery service where every customer felt seen, valued, and understood, where transparency and dignity were the foundation of every interaction. To make this dream real, he reached out to people who, like him, had been overlooked and underappreciated. First was Zamani, a former street vendor who knew the streets of Mavoko Bay better than anyone. He had struggled to keep his small business alive, and his sharp knowledge of routes and timing made him an invaluable partner. Next was Amara, an overworked call center agent who was exhausted by endless complaints and demanding supervisors. Her patience and empathy were unmatched, and Cabello knew her voice could bring reassurance to nervous or frustrated customers. Together, they launched Tendacare deliveries, starting with just a single, rusty bicycle. Money was scarce, but their determination was boundless. They painted a simple logo on a cardboard sign, shared their mission with anyone who would listen, and promised to treat every parcel, every message, and every customer with care. The first few days were discouraging. No one seemed to trust a tiny startup run by 3 strangers. Customers were cautious, some laughed at their small operation, and every delivery felt like a battle to prove themselves. Yet, Cabello, Zamani, and Amara never faltered in their kindness. They greeted everyone with smiles, answered questions honestly, and treated even the smallest deliveries as important. When a package was delayed due to traffic, They called to apologize, explaining exactly what had happened. Slowly, people began to notice. A neighbor who had once ignored Cabello stopped to thank him. A small shop owner, impressed by their honesty, asked them to handle more deliveries. Word of mouth started to spread, not because of flashy advertisements, but because of a reputation built on care, respect, and human decency. Despite the lack of money and the long, tiring days, the three friends felt something richer than wealth growing inside them. A sense of purpose, a bond forged in shared struggle, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing they were proving that kindness could succeed in a world that often overlooked it. Every small step, every smile returned, every grateful customer reinforced their belief that their dream was worth the fight, and that Tendacare Deliveries could become more than a business. It could become a symbol of what truly mattered. The first signs of success came quietly but powerfully. Elderly residents, who had often struggled with unfriendly services, began calling Tendacare Deliveries. They were drawn not by advertisements, but by the gentle, respectful way Cabello, Zamani, and Amara treated every interaction. Packages were carried carefully, questions answered patiently, and deliveries always arrived with a kind word or a helping hand. Word spread through the neighborhood, and soon these residents recommended the service to friends and family. One afternoon, a young customer recorded Cabello helping an elderly woman carry heavy groceries to her doorstep, insisting he did it without charge. The video was shared online and quickly went viral. People across Mavoko Bay were amazed at the genuine act of kindness, praising Cabello for his selflessness and integrity. Views and shares skyrocketed, and suddenly Tendacare Deliveries was more than a small business. It had become a symbol of decency and thoughtfulness. Strangers reached out, offering support and asking for deliveries, while neighbors cheered on the young team for standing out in a world often driven by greed and speed. With the growing attention, the company expanded rapidly. They hired a few more workers who shared their values, improved their routes, and even started small campaigns encouraging customers to treat others with respect. A movement of kindness began to spread across the city. People started noticing how small gestures, holding a door, explaining patiently, helping carry a package, could change interactions and brighten days. Tendacare was no longer just a delivery service. It had become a lesson in humanity, and Cabello's vision was taking root faster than anyone imagined. Yet as their success grew, so did envy. Larger companies, threatened by Tendacare's reputation, started murmuring behind closed doors. Among the skeptics and critics, Mr. Lutuli, Cabello's former boss, watched with rising anger. He saw the young man he had once humiliated now celebrated by the public, admired for traits he had scorned. His pride burned, and whispers of sabotage and undermining began to circulate. The city watched closely, curious about what would happen next. Could Cabello maintain his values while facing jealousy and possible betrayal? Could kindness survive when challenged by greed and resentment? Every new customer, every viral post, every word of encouragement built tension, leaving the community eager to see how success would confront the shadows of the past, and whether the young delivery team could protect not only their business, but the heart of what made them extraordinary. As Tendacare Deliveries grew, Mr. Lutuli's company started noticing the shift. Clients who once relied on his services were now calling Cabello, drawn by his respectful, dependable, and honest approach. Orders that had been routine for years disappeared overnight, and employees whispered about how the young man they had once mocked now set the standard. Lutuli's pride turned into panic, and his anger simmered dangerously. Determined to regain control, he began plotting. Rumors were spread about Tendacare's reliability, fake complaints were filed, and even inspectors were bribed to cause trouble for Cabello's team. Despite these attacks, Cabello and his team continued their work quietly, focusing on the customers who believed in them. They refused to fight back with lies or anger, keeping their integrity intact even as obstacles mounted. Each unfair report or insult was met with calm explanations, an unwavering commitment to their mission. The tension finally reached a breaking point in a public confrontation. Lutuli arrived at Tandala Market, shouting accusations and trying to intimidate Cabello and his small team in front of curious onlookers. Zamani and Amara flinched, but Cabello remained steady. With a calm voice and a clear gaze, he defended his team and their principles. He did not retaliate, did not insult, and refused to compromise their values. showing the crowd that strength could come from patience and kindness rather than aggression. People began to murmur, impressed by his courage and dignity. Soon, authorities investigated the false complaints and the bribery attempts. The evidence was undeniable. Lutuli's schemes were fully exposed, and his company began to crumble under public scrutiny and legal consequences. Clients returned to Cabello, praising his honesty and fairness, while Lutuli faced the consequences of his pride and dishonesty. His empire, once feared and respected, collapsed, leaving him humiliated and powerless. In the aftermath, Cabello faced a profound choice. He could have retaliated, spreading rumors or punishing Lutuli for his cruelty. The temptation was strong, but his heart knew another path. Instead, he chose forgiveness, understanding that vengeance would only tarnish what he had built. By letting go of bitterness, he preserved the integrity of Tendacare Deliveries, showing everyone that true strength comes not from tearing others down, but from holding fast to one's values, even when wronged. In that moment, the young man who had once been humiliated emerged not only victorious but wiser, a living example of how kindness and courage can overcome cruelty and deceit. Cabello looked at Lutuli with calm eyes, feeling no anger but understanding the man had made his choices. He forgave him silently, letting go of all bitterness, yet he firmly refused to take him back as a partner. Tendacare Deliveries had grown far beyond what one man could control alone, and Cabello knew that bringing back someone who had once tried to destroy the company could undo everything they had worked for. Lutuli left quietly, defeated but alive with the lesson that respect and honesty cannot be forced or bought. With Lutuli gone, Tendacare flourished like never before. The company expanded across Mavoko Bay, becoming the city's largest ethical business. Every delivery was a promise kept, every interaction a demonstration of care. Customers trusted them deeply, and employees felt proud to be part of a company that valued kindness as much as efficiency. The business was no longer just a service. It had become a movement, inspiring other young entrepreneurs to focus on fairness, transparency, and genuine human connection. Seeing the impact they were making, Cabello decided to share his knowledge. He created a training program called Kind Leadership, teaching future leaders that strength and success are not built on fear or aggression, but on empathy, honesty, and respect. Workshops filled quickly with eager participants from schools, small businesses, and corporations, all wanting to learn how to lead without cruelty. Through these sessions, Cabello's vision grew beyond deliveries. It became a blueprint for changing workplaces, communities, and ultimately hearts. In the quiet moments, as he watched his team smile while helping customers and young leaders take notes in his workshops, Cabello reflected on the journey. Every moment of humiliation, struggle, and doubt had led to this point. Every act of kindness, even when unappreciated, had built a foundation stronger than fear or greed. He realized that kindness was not weakness, as so many had tried to convince him. It was a revolution. It could topple arrogance, inspire loyalty, and change an entire city. And as Tendacare's story spread across Mavoko Bay, people began to understand something profound. Being gentle, patient, and honest could transform not only business but life itself. Cabello smiled, knowing that his journey had become proof that one person's goodness could ripple outward, creating hope, trust, and change. Remember, kindness isn't weakness, it's a revolution. If you believe in the power of compassion, subscribe and like to see more inspiring stories that show how goodness can conquer even the toughest challenges.